Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Waking Up. It's from the EP Chemical Clockwork from the group Montana Sand. They'll be coming to perform at the Gold Hill Inn very soon. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of this episode for more details. To learn more about the group, be sure to head to their website at montanasand.com.
There was a door. Searching for more.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where today I'm bringing you a community-centered episode. Before we get into today's interview, if you haven't subscribed to the Mountaineer and you want to support local news from peak to peak, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and click on the subscribe button in the top right corner of our homepage. From there, you'll get full access to our digital archives and scanned copies of our physical newspaper. And you'll be able to send a physical subscription to your mailbox or to the mailbox of someone that you love. If you're interested in any way in being involved in the paper and or the podcast, including getting advertising in either, then be sure to reach out to info@themountaineer.com to contact our editor-in-chief, Barbara Hart, media@themountaineer.com to contact myself, or frontdesk@themountaineer.com to learn more about the options that are available. And finally, our top story today, brought to you by Brittany Wagner.
Our top story today comes from Mindy Leary, RCI facing big charges in New York. RCI Hospitality Holdings, parent company of Rick's Cabaret, is facing major legal challenges. On September 16th, New York Attorney General Letitia James unsealed a 79-count indictment charging the company and several executives with conspiracy, bribery, and criminal tax fraud. Prosecutors alleged that between 2010 and 2024, RCI bribed a former state tax auditor with trips, hotel stays, restaurant outings, and private dances at its clubs, including Miami's Tootsie's Cabaret. According to prosecutors, text messages between RCI executives and the former tax auditor spelled out how dance dollars were used to soften the impact of audits. For example, a 2023 message reportedly reads, "Tim got the guy to $47K in Vivid New York, but owes him a couple trips." You can find the full story in this week's Mountaineer or at themountaineer.com.
Thank you, Brittany, for bringing us our top story. And now, let's get into our interview. Our primary guest, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Yeah, my name is Sean Hedden. I'm the regional manager of the Foothills program, which is basically Gilpin County, Clear Creek County, and Jefferson County for Advocates for Recovery Colorado.
And Advocates for Recovery Colorado has received funding through Gateway to the Rockies.
Yeah, so we're actually going into our second year of funding. Basically, we've been building this program for the past year or so now, hiring coaches, getting offices set up, getting our transportation set up, things like that. Yeah, so I was hired in January as the regional manager. So from there, I basically have been from ground up starting this program. And so now we have a coach in Gilpin County, Lindsay Gianola, and I can tell you more about what a coach is too.
So Sean, can you tell us a bit about the development of the Foothills program?
So also give you some background. Advocates for Recovery Colorado is actually about 24 years old as an organization. We actually cover areas of Denver, Aurora, Sterling, Colorado, Delta, Montrose, and Durango, Colorado as well. And so this is our newest program that we've developed. We also have a cultural program also, but this is our newest program within the state.
Is there anything that's been particularly exciting for you about being able to develop this program?
Yeah, it's for me anyway. It's been exciting, but it's also been a challenge because I have like 3 counties. One is Jefferson, which is very an urban county. There is some rural areas, but mainly Gilpin and Clear Creek are definitely more rural. People are more spread out here. And it's been exciting because I've been learning a lot about the communities here. Meeting people face to face, for instance, has been really exciting to me because in Denver, a lot of things are very virtual. A lot of things are not very personal a lot of times, and things can get more one-on-one here. Creating relationships within communities is really what I found is really impactful because like I have to talk to Elisa here in order to get an idea of really what I'm navigating when it comes to this community more than anything, which is a challenge.
Also joining us in this interview is Elisa Witt, the director of Gilpin County Public Health. She'll be jumping in with her thoughts a little later. So you were talking about hiring coaches for this particular program. Can you tell us a bit more about what coaches in this program do?
Yeah, so big part of the grant is basically we're hiring a coach in each of the counties. And so we hired Lindsay Gianola to be the coach in Gilpin County. She actually lives here. She's a resident here. She's somebody who's been in active and sustained recovery for a few years now. She's actually been trained with the Advocates for Recovery training program. And a big part of what a recovery coach is they're somebody with lived experience. So a coach is not somebody who is a counselor or a therapist. They're basically a person with lived experience who meets the participant. We call people participants that we meet up with. We meet them eye to eye. We really try to get on their level with their experience, sharing our experience with them, guiding them, not telling them what to do or judging them in any way, basically trying to support them in what they need within their scope of recovery, basically, which could look different to anybody. And so somebody could be trying to get sober. Somebody could be trying just to reduce their drinking. Somebody could be even trying to get a house, get a supportive place to live. And this is something we can help support them with. And so that's really what a coach does. A coach will also do things like create social events, like we have one coming up this week, which is our Clay and Connection event happening at the community center. Basically, they're creating little, I don't know if their trinket is the right word, little clay
objects.
Yeah, things that give hope. Basically, you can put into the piece of clay. I wish I knew the name.
A tchotchke. No.
Yeah, that's a good name. Little tokens of hope and recovery, basically, that they can create. We're also kind of adding in some things of making little cutout ghosts and little crafts and things like that. But this is really just a recovery event that can bring people together, do arts and crafts, but we also do things like hiking. We have potlucks. In Gilpin, we're doing one in November. We're doing one in Clear Creek in December. Really getting people together, basically trying to break the stigma that people can't come together when they're in recovery, that people can be a community, can celebrate their recovery together, can talk to each other and find that there is a community of recovery here also. And so a coach will definitely be somebody who facilitates those sort of things. We also have an all recovery meeting, which we're looking to start at the community center fairly soon. We just need a good date to do it. But an all recovery meeting is something to bring people together within whatever path of recovery they're in and talk to within a meeting, kind of like 12-step meeting, but we don't have like any spiritual credo or anything like that. We accept anybody who comes from all paths of recovery. They talk about what's going on in their lives, share solutions with each other. We also have crosstalk in the meetings, which is a little unique for a lot of these recovery meetings, where people can ask questions, can share their information with each other, share their hope, share their experiences with each other also. So those are the 3 main things that a coach will do: is coaching, create social events, and also facilitate meetings.
And how are you hoping to continue developing this program?
Yeah, I'm hoping like word of mouth really is the key to start getting things out there. That's one thing, getting the word out. Like we're doing this recovery ambassador training. This is really for the community, but also for people like first responders, community leaders, people that recognize what we're doing in this community also. But that comes to the second part, which is really breaking the stigma that people, especially in small communities, have a hard time admitting that they're a person living with substance use disorder a lot of times, which makes it very isolating a lot of times. And so kind of getting people out of their homes, getting them into communities of recovery is really what we're looking for. I know from talking to managers like in Sterling and Delta and Montrose, it takes a lot of time for that to happen. But by continuing to do these programs, I hope that we can build a good base here, especially in Gilpin. Gilpin has been the biggest challenge, admittedly, just because of the spread out of space that people live and where people live and the isolation of folks. Getting people out of that isolation is definitely something we want to do.
Yeah. Can I add a little bit?
This is Elisa Witt. Fire away.
So one of the reasons I'm very engaged and passionate about the work that Sean's doing is exactly what he just said. I've been living in Gilpin County for 10 years, but working in my role as the Director of Public Health for 3.5 years. And in the short time that I've been in my role, I know of at least 4 residents, 2 of whom were my neighbors, who passed away alone and isolated in their homes because of substance use disorder, because of exactly what Sean just said. One of them was my neighbor who literally lived just behind me. She worked the graveyard shift at the casinos. She had an issue with alcohol. She lived completely by herself. And she was, for lack of a better word, a frequent flyer to our ambulance authority. She was well known by our first responders because she would overuse alcohol, have heart issues or other kinds of blood pressure issues and palpitations, and had called them in the year before she passed away alone in her home 6 times for help, but never got treatment, never got support, never got the proper medical care. They were always responding to her in crisis. Yeah. And she was a lovely lady. We knew her. And then one day she was gone, and she wasn't that old. Another gentleman who lived in my neighborhood, I was a teacher at the Gilpin school when I first lived here. He had 3 beautiful children in the school. He was a licensed plumber, electrician with a secret heroin addiction. And he was being treated by not the best doctor who really didn't know how to help somebody with that addiction. He ended up losing custody of one of his children and spiraling downward and died alone in his home. And I knew him. So this is a real problem. This is happening in our community right under our noses. And we need programs like Sean's to let people know they're not alone and that there are people who have been through what they've been through and come out the other side that can act as support and guides for them.
Yeah. And a lot of times the system at large that a person is dealing with when it comes to crisis first responders, like they have a good heart. They're trying to do their job the best they can, but there also is a power indifference there a lot of times. And a lot of times those first responders don't have the time to do things like be empathetic with them, and talk about their experience more than anything and saying that, hey, I'm somebody like you. I've been through this. And that can really open up conversations a lot of times. And that's really what our program can do.
And how do you hope that this program will continue to build and reinforce that sense of community, particularly in addiction recovery?
Yeah, totally. I mean, ultimately, what I'd like to see is a rally for recovery within this community. We have a big rally for recovery in Denver. We had it on September 20th. It was like thousands of people there in Civic Center Park. We also had one the week before in Sterling, Colorado, with around 400 people there. Ultimately, that's what I'd like to see in Gilpin, to have an actual rally of recovery. And what that would mean is that the community as a whole would be supporting people in recovery and supporting those also who are living with substance use disorder as well, knowing that we are there for each other and that we have broken down these walls of stigma more than anything. And that's really what I'd like to see. That's my ultimate goal.
But one of the big reasons you two are here to talk to us about this program is because there is a recovery training hosted by Advocates for Recovery that's coming up soon.
Yeah, so we've got something called a Recovery Ambassador Training. The trainer is going to be Tanya Wheeler, who is our executive director. She's been in active and sustained recovery since 1990 and has been actually a big advocate for recovery on both the national level and the Colorado local level as well. She's a big supporter of recovery within the community, wants to also create a Colorado Recovery Bill of Rights for people because a lot of people who are in recovery live with that stigma of being like an addict, for instance, and being only known as an addict. And we really want to show that people in recovery are human beings. They have full lives and things like that. They can be a mother, they can be a father, they can be a child, they can be somebody who likes basketball, all these different things in their life rather than just an addict. And so the Recovery Ambassador Training is something that is going to communicate to people like first responders, caseworkers, therapists, policymakers, but also just the community at large. Anybody is welcome to the Recovery Ambassador training. What they're going to learn there is what is recovery, first of all, and what that really means, because a lot of people have different misconceptions of what recovery is. Some people think like, okay, that means you're in a 12-step program. That means you're going to AA or something like that. But that's not always true for everybody. Recovery can look different for anybody. We'll also talk about the impact of stigma and what it has in a community, especially a rural community. We're going to teach people and educate people about stigma, the importance of language, especially person-centered language, and how, like I said, calling somebody a person who lives with substance use is a lot better than calling somebody an addict, for instance, and how people can talk to people. Like a first responder, I've talked to first responders before, and sometimes like they didn't know anything about this person-centered language and the way they're talking to people, you know, and that can be a way to really reduce the stigma and invite people into things like our program, for instance, welcoming people into like, hey, we're there for you. We understand that this is a disease, this is a disorder that you're living with, and not just a moral deficiency, for instance. And also just sharing the message of hope, sharing that recovery is possible in our communities. And that's really what the Recovery Ambassador training is all about.
So when's the training going to be?
So it's October 22nd at 12:30 to 3 o'clock p.m. And it's at the Gilpin County Public Library.
Are there any other events that are coming up for Advocates for Recovery?
So right now we also have an all recovery meeting in Idaho Springs, like some people might be interested in, and that's at the Clear Creek Health and Wellness Center on Thursdays at 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And so that's one of those meetings where anybody is welcome. Anybody's welcome, but those in recovery or seeking recovery in their lives are welcome. And they can come to share their story, to share their experience, to share dialogue, to ask questions, just be in a community. We have a small meeting right now, but we're growing that meeting. Every week we get like one more person, so it's growing.
I can add a little bit, Jamie, in that when I was first, again, figuring out my role and understanding what the issues were in Gilpin County, one of the things we had to do was we did what's called a community health assessment. And part of that was to interview key informants, so many of whom were our first responders, because I wanted to find out, what do the paramedics typically see in our community? What do the sheriff's office see in our community? What kinds of issues do we need to address that might be hidden? And it came out against pretty much everyone I talked to that they didn't know what resources to offer people with substance use disorder. They just had no idea where to send them and how to get them help. And many times it's not so much with the sheriff's deputies. We have excellent sheriff's deputies. They're very well trained for crisis situations. But a lot of times it's the ambulance guys that see these people with addictions over and over again with medical emergencies, like my neighbor, and they need support in how to do those warm handoffs and how to understand addiction, because they're the good guys. People want them. They call them for help, but they help them with that one crisis, but they need to help them with the overall situation if they can, if the person is open to it. And that's why I think this Recovery Ambassador training is so important. We want our first responders to show up and we want them to learn. And a lot of times in Gilpin, they actually do have the time because it's not like an urban environment. They can spend more time with somebody. And I hear that, like the people don't want them to leave. They're lonely. They're isolated. And they're like, I got to go to another call. And they want them to stay, you know, because they really want help, but they just don't know what they need.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so
really
our first responders need this. Yeah.
And is there anything else that either of you want to emphasize about Advocates for Recovery and the Foothills program in particular?
You don't have to be a person who's struggling with any kind of substance to come to this training. It's for people, whether they realize it or not. I think everybody probably knows somebody or has known someone in their life with addiction issues and substance use disorder. And if you haven't already, you probably will in the future. So it's a good training for anybody who wants to help their family, their community members, their fellow man to learn about this and to be able to be a resource. And again, to reduce stigma is the most important thing. You know, we want as many people as possible to learn about addiction and to learn how to be a help and support for their neighbors and friends and family.
Yeah, I mean, people all over the community are connected in some way. We've even put flyers up at pot shops before, you know, because people will see that and they'll be like, okay, this is something I might be interested in. So like business leaders, things like that are also people that connect with things like the Recovery Ambassador training.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with our community having that huge casino district. I don't want to say it's an unhealthy environment, but it's an environment where a lot of people are shift workers at the casinos. Alcohol flows freely. It's not an easy community to live with addiction issues because it's kind of supported by that casino district.
I believe.
And there's a lot of drug exchanges that go on in those casinos, and it's a problem for a lot of our residents, way more than we realize. I know that.
Thank you so much to Sean and Elisa for joining us on the podcast. Remember, the Advocates for Recovery Colorado Gilpin Recovery Ambassador Training is open to all members of the public. So be sure to head to the Gilpin County Library, located at 15131 Colorado 119 in Gilpin, on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025, starting at 12:30 p.m. To RSVP for the training and learn more about the organization, visit advocatesforrecovery.org. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. I'll be back very soon with another episode. In the meantime, if you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, be sure to share this episode on wherever you're listening to us now. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, perhaps Podchaser, or even our podcast's main hub at Buzzsprout, the MTNEAR podcast.buzzsprout.com. You can find our full archive of episodes by heading to wherever you get your podcasts, our podcast's primary hub, or by scrolling to Mountaineer Media on our homepage. Scrolling down to Mountaineer Media will also allow you to find our Facebook and our YouTube. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, head to our page at mtn.ear. As a reminder, if you're interested in being involved in the newspaper or the podcast in any way, especially if you're interested in advertising for either, then be sure to reach out to info@themountaineer.com, media@themountaineer.com, and or front desk at themountaineer.com, and we'll get something sorted for you. You can also call 303-810-5409 to reach a staff member directly. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day.
You walk. I hate the way that you say my name. In the end, it was up to the chords and the way we played games.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Lioness, and it's from the EP Chemical Clockwork by Montana Sand, which you can find along with the group's other releases wherever you get your music. Montana Sand will be performing at the Gold Hill Inn very soon. Be sure to catch them at 401 Main Street in Gold Hill on Sunday, October 26, 2025, starting at 7 p.m. To learn more about the group and find their music and social media, be sure to head to their website at montanasand.com.
We gotta get comfortable in our own skin. Don't come running back to the fame now. Don't come running back to my fire, my flame now. I will keep running till I am in pain now. I'm a lioness, I cannot be tamed now.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak-to-Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.